JJ the CPA here. Hope you're doing well. So to save taxes at year end, what you want to look at is what expenses have you paid personally on behalf of your business that you need to have your business reimburse you for. That would be for S Corp owners, partnership owners, because the business needs to pay for it. You can't do an AJE or a reclassification to capture that. These would be things like if you're paying for your cell phone personally, well, if it's related to your business, you get to write it off. Did you use a personal vehicle for business mileage? Well, then you get to deduct the mileage related to that. Also, what I want you to look at is your personal credit card and your personal bank statements. Are there things that you're paying personally that your business should be paying for because it's related to your business? As we look at year end, what I want you to look at is what monies were you spending at the end of last year, and consider if you should be doing that at the end of this year. There's many expenses that you have that are annual or quarterly, so be sure that you're getting all the deductions that you can with expenses that you already have in play. The other is I want you to look at the beginning of this year and what expenses did you pay that really you could have paid before the end of the year. This gives you a glimpse of bills that are coming up due in January, maybe not as routine, that you could pay before the end of the year and get the deduction this year. I want you to remember, with a credit card for business, when you charge it, that is the date that you get to tax deduct it. It's not when you pay the credit card, because you paid for it. Now you owe the credit card, but when you paid for it, that's when you get the deduction, in essence, when you charge the credit card. If you're buying a vehicle, I've done some videos related to that. Many have inquired of, do I need to pay for the vehicle in full to be able to get the deduction? It's just like the credit card. When you buy that vehicle, whatever the purchase price is, that's what it is that would be deductible when you're talking about for a business. So if you got a note, you'd had some down payment, and or you did a trade, well, that affects how you're paying for it. But the deduction is what was the purchase price, because if you owe the bank, well, it doesn't have anything to do with you getting the deduction, because that car dealership or the person that sold their car to you, well, they got paid one way or another. You're on the hook for it, so you get to deduct what it is that is your purchase price. So when you're looking at year end, the biggest thing to do is, what are my routine expenses? What can I do to remind myself what those expenses are? What's coming up? Getting those things paid before year end. If you feel that you're really having a big year this year and you're not going to have as a big a year next year, then that's really where you may want to look at some prepayments. When you're a cash basis taxpayer, the law allows you to pay up to 12 months in advance of any expenses. Now, I don't know that you should or why you would, but I'm just telling you, if you are paying anything in advance, as long as you've used up that expense within 12 months, then you get the deduction when you pay for it for cash basis. So if you were to pay rent for January, but you paid it in December, well, you're going to get the deduction in December. If you paid the next 12 months, I don't know why you would do that, but at the date that you paid it, that's when you get the deduction. So what's key is that if you're paying things by check, that they're dated on or before 12/31, that it's mailed on or before midnight of 12/31. If you're charging things on a credit card, same thing. You're charging it on or before midnight on 12/31 to get the deduction. If your check clears next year or the credit card charge shows up on the statement next year, what's important is, well, what's the date that you had the purchase, which would be per your receipt. You do want to keep records of all of this, your receipts, your bank statements, your credit card statements, because you have to prove what it is that you bought, and you also have to prove that your business paid for it. Now, many that are self-employed, they have the question of, how does this apply to me? Everything I just told you is the same, except for at the beginning when I said, if you have personal expenses, if you have business expenses that you paid personally, then have your business reimburse you. Well, if you're filing a Schedule C, which is a sole proprietor, that's a gig worker, people that are getting 1099s and they're not filing a separate return, they're just filing that Schedule C with their individual return, well, you just get to write off the expenses that you had. Meaning, even if you paid for them out of a personal account, Even if you have a business account with Schedule C, that's the exception. You're able to just write off the expenses that you had. But everything else related to sole proprietor, you would follow the same thing of what I indicated. I'm going to give you a link to a few videos and a playlist. I've got a seminar that you should check out. In fact, 5 of them that you could get instant access to. So I'm going to give you links to that. And really what it comes down to is this. If there's things that you're going to need to spend money on anyways, would it make sense to go ahead and spend it now? Because that's going to save you tax now. And for many small business owners, cash is king. So the less that you would have to pay out in taxes, then the more money you're able to actually have. So don't get yourself in trouble. Don't put yourself so deep into debt trying to prepay things and hoping that you'll have the income to pay for those things later. Again, it's just staying after the routine. So these are the things that I do with my clients. I'm so glad that you made it to here, because the payoff for you is that on my website, jjthecpa.com, I'll give you a link in the body of this video, unless you're watching it somewhere where there's not a body. But if you can get to my website, I actually have a page and it says sign up for my newsletter, and there's another one that says tax checklist. You don't have to actually do anything, but I there have some checklists for you with these ideas as well as some other things. If for whatever reason you don't want to take my seminar and you just want to get what I've got for free, well, give me a lot of good valuable information. So maybe what you could do at a minimum is follow or subscribe. All right, hey, appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in. I'd love it if you'd subscribe or follow. And then don't you ever forget, you've never met a CPA quite like me. Have a great one.